Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our first storyteller tonight, Dr. Molly McNabb. Molly has spent much of her adult life in the hospital, first as a medical student, then as a resident physician, then as a patient. Growing up dreaming of becoming a small-town family doctor, Molly never knew that her life would lead to 25 psychiatric hospitalizations and life as an advocate for mental health awareness. Molly is now a physician turned stand-up comic with a group called Mental Health at the Mic, using her life with schizoaffective disorder and life on disability as fodder for laugh-out-loud comedy. Dear friends, please help me welcome Dr. Molly McNabb.
Hello, everybody.
Hey.
My name is Molly D. McNabb, MD. Little did I know going through medical school, the MD would actually stand for manic depressive. My journey in the mental health world started at the end of my senior year of college at Oregon State University, as I was preparing to leave for medical school in Omaha, Nebraska. It presented itself as a moderate depression. Lots of nights crying over the simplest of things, not wanting to do the fun things I had done for years, and feeling terrible if left alone. This depression was chalked up to leaving my friends and family and moving away. Once I got to Omaha, the depression went into turbo mode. However, being a medical student, I quickly learned that in order to achieve at school, I needed to find a way to compartmentalize my depression into a home thing and put on a public mask that everything was okay. This public persona was happy and well-adjusted, high-functioning, and could study all the anatomy and physiology that was thrown at me. The home persona, the real me, was barely able to function. There were weeks on end that all I ate were instant mashed potatoes, showering was a chore, and it was rare that I wasn't suicidal. It wasn't until my last semester of medical school, January to be exact, that I experienced my first manic episode. I was home alone and decided to invite a stranger, someone who had been stalking me on Facebook, over for sex, which I'd never done before. He didn't leave for several days, nor did I sleep, and we shopped my bank account near empty. The ideas were flowing through my head rapidly. Then one day, it all stopped. The bottom fell out of my intense feelings, and I sent him home. I came very close to suicide and ended up in a psychiatric hospital for the first time. I thought my medical career was over, but I managed to graduate on time and start residency in family medicine a few months later. My problems weren't over when I started residency. In fact, they were just getting fired up. I only made it about 3 months and was forced to stop because my symptoms were too intense to work. I resigned and took the next year and a half to work on getting better and ready to start again. I got healthy and ready and tried at another residency program and did a little better. I made it about 9 months, but alas, was shown the door. My medical career was over. I was crushed, and my bipolar disorder became very difficult to treat as the grief of my job loss became enmeshed with it. Since January 2009, I've been hospitalized 25 times in the psych ward, mostly voluntary, although a handful of times I've had to go involuntarily. I've gone to 2 long-term mental health treatment centers and to a day hospital / partial hospitalization program a handful of times. My bipolar disorder has now morphed into schizoaffective disorder, bipolar type, which basically means I have symptoms of schizophrenia, like paranoia, mainly of the FBI following me around and reading my mind, and visual and auditory hallucinations, and then have the bipolar mood swings from time to time. I do a really good job of acting normal in public. I still have that public persona thing I learned in medical school, so many people are shocked when they hear this stuff is going on. This story is not all tragedy, though. In fact, a few years ago, I found stand-up comedy as a way to cope with everything that life had thrown at me. I found that adding a punchline to something so terrible as losing my career I had worked my whole life for made it hurt just a little less every time I told it. And being able to make others laugh with me about my mental illness and some of the silly ways it manifests in my life made it a little easier to accept the hard truth that I'll be dealing with some of this stuff my whole life. I've made jokes about living on welfare, having brain surgeries, living with my mom as an adult, and being a patient with way too much education. Comedy has made it possible for me to have something I'm good at again. And even though I'll probably never make an honest living at it, it is something I can be proud of myself for again, and is an invaluable tool I can use when I need to reframe something difficult in my life. What do I want you to get out of all this? Anyone can have a mental illness. And just because they look fine, doesn't mean they are. Don't judge a person by their diagnosis. I did everything right and still ended up with a serious mental illness. Doctors can be patients too. Doctors are human. Thank you.
Thank you. As Molly said, doctors can be patients too. Doctors are human. In the United States, an estimated average of 28% of medical residents show signs of depression, making them 3 times more likely to be depressed than similarly aged Americans. Suicide rates among physicians is very concerning. But the fear of disclosure and its consequences on their career prevents many from seeking help. Molly is a member of the ASHA Storytellers team and wants to help change the medical culture to honor the humanity of physicians and empower them to share their struggles without fear and seek help. Healers need healing too.